Hello. We have another week next week, as I said before, the 17th. We're going to talk about zombies, ghosts, angels, and demons, or like the paranormal. What do Lutherans believe about that? So we have covered some mysterious topics here. And again, we're just barely able to skim the surface of some of this to whet your appetite and maybe have you develop more inquisitiveness about what we think about these things, or what are your opinions about it. And then on the 24th is the week before Holy Week, when we don't meet on the 31st. So the 24th, I've asked you to think of some questions for all three pastors will be here. It can be personal, it can be professional, it can be stump the pastors, anything you would like. You can ask them that night, but I would love it if you send me the stuff in advance so that we have some idea. I will not show them the questions. I will just tell them that there were some questions submitted.
What? You're not going to show us the questions so we can prepare lengthy lectures on the topics?
And you're so busy, so I don't want to bother you with having to study ahead of time.
Griffin, are you in the Oval Office? That's fine. All right, there we go. Aspirations.
Okay, right. And I'm going to look at what other.
I'll vote for you.
I have another announcement if you're an 8th grader. So 7th graders, listen about this because it'll be you next year. Soon, probably next month, 8th graders, you're going to get an email from me, which probably goes to your parents. And we'll be asking you to name a mentor for 9th and 10th grade. And I'll tell you just a little bit about a mentor. It is an adult, preferably not one of your parents. It could be a grandparent, an aunt or an uncle, a baptism sponsor, or someone that you know who believes in Jesus and it'll work out best in your life for this mentor thing as if they're a Christian. I'm just saying, just for the purposes of this confirmation exercise. But I hope you have friends that are not Christians. You're going to name an adult who will meet with you periodically through 9th and 10th grade. And then during your 10th grade year, they will help you make your final credo project, kind of a visual representation of what you're coming to believe. So you meet with your mentor approximately once a month on Wednesday nights. They're in the schedule, and the weeks that are not mentor nights are like the devil horns. Those are very good. Bless the Lord. That was I like that. If anybody else wants to come on the screen and put on your devil horns, that's great. You can, and you'll meet with your mentor once a month or more often. I have some mentor pairs in 9th and 10th grade that they like to go out for like smoothies or coffee or ice cream. They've even seen each other during the pandemic, or right now we're meeting online, but I anticipate by the fall that we'll be back in person. Well, we don't know, but that's what I'm thinking. So 8th graders, be thinking of someone in your life that you know. It doesn't have to be a Gloria Day member. A number of times it is. So maybe someone who you know from adult choir or whatever. So I'm going to be asking you to name that person before the fall so that when we start in the fall, that person can be background checked and they can be trained and all the things that they need. Some of you will wait until October, and it will break my heart, and I will still love you. I will still love you just the same. But some of you will know that, already know who you're going to ask. And that is terrific too. If you know that you are not going to know, and some of you might say, I have no idea. And you ask your parents and they don't know who to ask. I have ideas. Okay, I'm really good at this actually. It is a spiritual gift. I'm good at pairing people up with other members in the church that probably wouldn't be asked, but who would be great mentors. So if you don't know, just ask me and I will find you a magical thing. Okay. The other thing I wanted to talk to you about is I'm going to show you something that's only 2 minutes long. I'm going to show you a video about food justice. This summer, we're obviously not able to take a trip, but we're going to be doing some things around town that have to do with housing and hunger. And I want you to be thinking about freeing up some of your time, probably on Wednesdays.
Yes, I am.
Sorry. Oh, and I meant to ask Pastor Bradley to watch the waiting room while I'm sharing my screen. So we're probably going to be doing some volunteering around town, Ramsey and Hennepin County, dealing with food and housing. And I just wanted you to see this video, and while you start praying about freeing up a little bit of your time this summer so we can serve together.
I think food justice is all about making sure that people have the tools and resources that they need to make the food choices that they want.
Food justice, the right to have healthy food in abundance in your home or in your community.
Justice in the food practice is we need to make healthy food available for everyone, independent of their income, independent of their skin color, independent of where they live. Everybody needs to have access to those basic foods that keep them healthy.
Food justice to me, I think, means food is available to those who need it when they need it. And that when they need it, there's choice available, and that part of that choice includes some healthy choices.
I got some green beans in here.
Are they nice?
Oh, they're beautiful. Highest quality I picked this morning.
So I think food justice for some would be access to the opportunities of healthier items.
It helps us get through the day and nutritional value.
To me, it's doing justice with the food. Care for it as you would care for it in your own fridge at home, and to make sure that it's being used by somebody who needs it instead of being put into a landfill somewhere.
It's about access to food, but it's also access to the story around food, and then the implication of that story on whatever community is telling it.
We'll talk about that more next week. But I want you to be thinking about how we as Christians take care of the people in our community. Oh, Mary Jo, our former parish nurse, in that video. Ramsey County made these. There's a whole playlist from about 5 years ago, and the one that comes after this. I was just watching these videos today. All of a sudden, it was like several Gloria Day members were helping at Francis Basket doing mass food distribution. I'm like, oh my goodness, I know her, I know her, I know him. It was so fun. That could be us. But I will tell you more about what I'm thinking next week, but we're going to be doing some stuff around town this summer. So I'm going to keep you busy. And now it is time for Pastor Bradley to talk.
Okay, so happy to be with you. Darren went and found the devil horn, so I've got him. We can start this lesson by saying, I am not the devil. But we're talking about it because a lot of people asked questions about the devil. So we're including a little lesson on kind of where the idea of the devil comes from, and what do we really think about it? Normally, these are kind of some of the pictures we see of the devil, right? It's either really like evil, terrible pictures, or it's kind of a joke, kind of a cartoon. So evil is either made really gruesome or kind of made light of. Where does the idea of the devil, where did it come from? Some people think that it comes from the Bible, but I'm here to tell you it does not. The idea of the devil is not really very prominent in the Bible. It gets read into the Bible because people come to the Bible with a preconceived notion about a devil. So they see the devil there in places where it's really not. If you ask the ancient people who are writing these stories, they would have no idea what we're talking about when we talk about the devil. One of the first places is in Genesis, where there's a story of Adam and Eve being tempted, and it says, now the serpent was more crafty than any other wild animal that the Lord had made. And it's the snake that tempts Eve. So people say, oh, well, there's the devil. But the Bible doesn't say anything about the devil. It's just a story where this animal is kind of the trickster, is the one that's playing the role of tempting Eve, but not a full idea of the devil in any way. We also don't know if it was an apple that Eve ate. Okay. Maybe you heard the word Satan to describe devil. That's actually comes from a Hebrew word, shaitan, which we in English then get Satan. But in the Bible, it doesn't mean devil with horns. This thing really is scratchy, so I'm taking it off. It doesn't mean with a pitchfork and a tail. The word just means adversary. And sometimes that word would be used in a court where you had two attorneys arguing their case, so they are adversaries. This shows up in the book of Job, which, if you remember the Bible we just did this year, you remember that the story of Job is kind of this parable story about where God says, I don't think Job's going to lose his faith. And all of these terrible things happen, and Job has this big struggle about being faithful. The way that gets started is the adversary says to God, I bet I can make Job defy you. And God says, you can't do it. And so then in this parable, the adversary, the Satan, the attorney, goes to work to try to challenge Job. First thing to remember, Job is not a literal thing. So you can't take passages from Job and turn them into a literal idea about a devil. Two, it doesn't really say anything about a devil there. Lucifer is another name you heard maybe for the devil. Lucifer just means kind of light bearer. And there's this story of an angel being cast out of heaven. And here it's in Isaiah. How you are fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of David. How you are cut down from the ground. People look at that and say, see, Satan was an angel who did something bad and got thrown out of heaven and then went to another world and started his own kingdom that's going to be an adversary of God. Here's the problem. That's not what Isaiah was talking about. He was trying to talk about the king of Babylon who was sending his army to capture Jerusalem. And Isaiah wants to say what's going to happen to that king, that God's not going to let that king capture Jerusalem. The king's going to get thrown down. But you couldn't say that out loud because you get thrown into jail. So it's code language. It's not a story of the devil. So really, my bottom line here, there is nothing in the Old Testament that teaches about a devil. Nothing. It's all speculation or literary license. And most Jews who only use what we call the Old Testament, for them is their scripture, most Jews have no belief in a devil. They just don't think that way. When Jesus was walking the earth, there was another religion in the part of the world that's now Iran. It was called Zoroastrianism, and it had an idea of these opposing forces, good versus evil, and you had the armies of good fighting the armies of evil, and they had this really big mythology of demons and angels fighting each other. So a lot of the pictures and stuff that we get from there come from that other religion, and that influenced the people of Jesus' day. They were shaped by those metaphors and those images. So there's really not a developed idea of any kind of devil as a person that is tempting you in the New Testament either. And the point of the New Testament is to help us trust in Jesus, not to prove that there's a devil. You know, people are spending a lot of time working on the devil in the Bible. You're kind of missing the point, which is about Jesus in the Bible. There are just a few places in the New Testament where it's mentioned that people get ideas. Jesus talks about being tempted by Satan. There's Beelzebul is another name, and the beast, or 666 in the book of Revelation, the dragon. There's lots of that metaphorical, poetic language in Revelation that is used. Again, these are just a few verses, so you can't take them and develop a whole idea of the kind of devil that we tend to think about. But where it comes up in the Bible, what's this figure doing? It's tempts us to trust ourselves rather than God, stands against God's reign of love, peace, and justice, throws innocent people to the ground. That's the Beelzebul story. Like you've got a demon in you. Makes war against goodness, uses violence as a way to win, can use good words to get us to do bad things, and sometimes appears as an ally, but is really against us. I sometimes think this is like the good idea that goes bad. Now, these things are real experiences that we have, right? When we're struggling to know what's good and bad, or how to figure out who we are, we have these kind of conflicting, warring voices that are inside us. So sometimes this metaphor of a devil or a Satan kind of works to describe those feelings that we have. So here's the bottom line. Is there such a thing as a devil? Here's how I would answer that question. You could take 3 different ways to do this. You could say, there is no such thing as a devil. It just doesn't exist. It's an ancient idea. Modern people don't think this way. We don't believe in that. And actually, the pictures of the devil we get are from literature, mainly from Dante's Inferno, if you've heard of that yet. People who say there's no such thing say it's just a weird medieval idea from a time when people believed in a world that had heaven above and hell below. And they took mythology literally. And the idea, and people who think no such thing say the idea of the devil keeps me from taking responsibility from the tempting thoughts that come from myself or the bad things I do. You can kind of blame it on somebody else. The devil made me do it, and then you're not responsible. So people reject that idea. So then there's kind of another way to think about it, is say, yes, maybe there is this force of evil that is real and in the world, but it's not like the Halloween devil that you dress up like. And you could say, there are evil forces that seem bigger than me, and I get caught up in things that carry me to bad places. And there seem to be forces that try to keep God's goodness from taking hold. We read about them in the newspaper, wars, greed, or I think, those voices inside our heads that say, you're not lovable, you're not valuable, you don't have anything to bring. We understand there are these voices in us that lead us down bad paths. So I sometimes can feel 2 opposing forces inside myself, and I struggle with which one to listen to. So then the last way to kind of think about Satan or the devil is, no, I don't really think there's a devil, but there is evil in me and in systems that are bigger than me. I think this one we've really gotten a lot of insight into in the last year since the murder of George Floyd. And we talk about racism as a systemic evil, that it's not just personal bad feelings towards people of color. It's actually, the system is set up to be against people of color. And that's what we're fighting against now, to change, that the system becomes evil. So this school of thought would say, you know, I have good and evil inside myself, and I'm responsible for figuring that out and making my own choices. You might also say in this group that the hurt places inside myself sometimes lead me to bad choices. Usually evil people are acting out of their brokenness or from the evil that was done to them. You know, this, if you know anything about abuse, you know that people who abuse others were often from families where there was abuse. So they were abused themselves. And then lastly, evil gets produced by big systems like racism, sexism, heterosexism, ageism, xenophobia. All those isms, I think, are a kind of modern way that we talk about evil in the world. So that's my take on it. Do we have time for questions?
Anybody has a quick question, you can either unmute or put it in the chat.
What are your thoughts about a devil? What do you think about it?
You guys could use the chat, or you could unmute, or
Yeah, I'm just interested in what you think. Like, what did you hear when you heard me talking that seemed important to you, or new, or challenging? Is the devil keeping you quiet?
the devil is when you can't get a Wi-Fi signal. That's the devil. It's not the work of the devil. It's just straight up Satan. Let's be honest. Well, thanks for coming, everyone. If you do have questions for the Grill the Pastors night, you got to send them over to me. I hope that as you do confront evil in the world in many different forms, that you take your faith and the promises of God and the good news that we are baptized and we are new creations, and that we have the power of the Holy Spirit when we're afraid or come against those forces of evil. And you always know, I hope that you know you can reach out to us, and because we want to pray with you and for you anytime, and it's real. So we take it seriously. If you need help with anything, we feel very blessed and special when you reach out to us with any of those type of questions, or just need someone to talk to. I'm going to let you go. Church is at 7. I hope you go to evening prayer. So God bless you, and I'm praying for you. I'll see you next week.
Great to see all of you.
Thank you.